The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network. Any questions or concerns about what is said should be directed to the show host, whose information will be provided upon request.
Good morning. Welcome to Charlotte Black Morning Coffee. Hope everyone is doing well. I don't know what's going on with the vocals this morning. I wasn't singing or anything. I'm not sure what's happening. How's everybody doing this morning? You know I'm always messing with this phone so that if there's anyone out there making some comments, I can respond real time. But I tell you what, I have the hardest time every single time finding it. It's crazy. So, oh, here we go. Okay. So anyway, good morning. It's good to see everybody. Well, you know, it's good to be here. Let's say that. I'm telling y'all something. Y'all almost got a pre-recorded show this morning, for real. Because I was up late last night. There's a couple of things going on. I had a unique opportunity and offer to ghostwrite a writing project, which is huge for me. That's huge for me. And so I'm really, really excited about that. So, you know, we were online and we were talking about that last night. And, you know, once we got offline, I can't get these glasses clean. Once we got offline, you know, of course, the wheels of creation started turning for me. So I was writing all this stuff down. I was like, oh, I got to get to the show. I got to finish my notes for the show. And, you know, I don't really stress too badly because, again, you know, with my connection, my spirit team, they always come through and I always get what I need just in the time that I need it. So I trusted that, but I, you know, still, you know, you want to have some semblance of some kind of, you know, you got your hands on it. So anyway, I did that and, you know, working on the notes and everything. And by the time I finished with everything, it was probably about 12 o'clock. So when I woke up this morning, you know, the alarm goes off at 6 o'clock and I'm looking at the clock like, who you talking to? Because I know you ain't talking to me. I just laid down. Do you hear me? So it was a battle. But finally at 7 o'clock, of course, I got up. So, and started working and everything. But it just kind of made my morning weird, you know. Tons of things happened this morning. 1,000 things going through my mind this morning about how I'm going to, you know, do my intro for the show, what I'm going to talk about. And I have not said anything that I said I was going to say. Hence the reason why we just stay in the moment and do things authentically, because when I plan, typically it does not always happen the way that I expect it to come off. So anyway, I don't have a guest today, which is okay because we're just going to talk about stuff. We're just going to chit-chat it up. So I hope you got your coffee, your tea, or whatever it is, you know, whatever your libation of the morning is. I hope that you have that. Good morning. This is to my girlfriend, Tone. Good morning. I'm glad you're online. Beautiful. So let's see. Where are we going to start? I forgot the book. Oh my God. I was in a rush. See what I'm talking about? So a friend of mine dropped this book. And so I wanted to bring it so everybody could see it. And I forgot it. So, but if anyone is interested, it's a really good book that this individual wrote. It's called Why Isn't This Working? Interesting perspective. Very interesting perspective. But it is a really good read. I don't want to kind of give it away. I don't want to spoil it. So I don't want to go too much into it. But let me tell you something. Some folk read this book. If you don't see yourself in it, you will see someone that you know in there. So it's, I don't want to spoil it. I really don't want to spoil it. But if you get an opportunity, look the book up. It's called Why Isn't This Working? By P.L. Dates, and you can find it on Amazon. So do that. Let's see. Getting ready for, I'm reading my notes this morning. Getting ready for the show. Okay, I already talked about that. I already talked about that. Oh, okay. So the topic today is where are we fragmented, right? And it came about talking about, it really came up as separation first, right? I know, separation. So I got to thinking about separation because what I've learned that everything in this reality, in this lifetime, in our 3D world, what we call in the spiritual world, this is the 3D world. Everything in our 3D world, it's not what it seems. What do I mean? It has more layers than we ever look at. So, like one word could mean multiple things, right? So, separation is the word that comes up. Separation. So, I'm going to come back to that. So, what got me to the topic was I had been on LinkedIn probably, I don't know, months ago. And, I just kind of perused through the comments and, who's looked at my page and things like that. And there was a woman on there from Canada. And her story was really interesting. I read about it and I was like, oh, you would be really cool, to have on the show. I think I might have sent that about, I don't know, 45 days ago. Maybe longer than that. Because it was before I even started back with the show in January. And I never heard back. And so probably about, I don't know if it was this, it might have been this week, right? I get a message in my inbox and, she's talking to me and saying that she's interested. I didn't know where she was at the time, right? So she talks to me and tells me that she's interested and tells me all the things that she's involved in. And then she begins to tell me her story. And I'm listening to the story. But then there is one thing in the story that just stood out, right? When she made a statement that her mother lied to her about a particular topic. This is what she said. And I couldn't get past it. It was like, I got this feeling that she was carrying around this, I don't know, like this underlining, like, you know what I mean? Like, pointing a finger, like, I don't know, that was just a feeling. Now, I'm not saying that's what she really felt, but I'm saying that's what I felt, that's what I got. So I was like, huh. So the question that came to my mind was, did her mother really lie to her? Or did her mother give her the truth that she knew from her time? Do you know what I mean? So real quickly, like, I don't know. I think I've told this story before about the cabbage. And when I was in college, a roommate of mine said, hey, you can't eat cabbage after 7 o'clock. Because if you do, you're going to die. And I'm like, what? Who told you that? Girl, I know. You going to die. I'm telling you, don't do it. Don't do it. So we in the college cafeteria. We hungry. We eating. So we eat cabbage. And we go to our dorm. She goes home. She's like, ooh, I'm going to check on y'all in the morning. Ooh, teasy, I'm so sorry. She was just real dramatic about it. So me and my roommate looking at each other, we think that this is comical. Because we're like, what? So anyway, next morning she shows up at the room. And, of course, we're still alive. So she explains that, that's what she had been told. It had been passed down in her generation. And what I know about that is, at one time, that might have been true, just because they didn't have, advanced technology and refrigeration and all that we do now. And so they had to be careful about when they ate, just because, food had a short shelf life. And so, in an ice box, I guess it wouldn't last that long if the ice melts, right? So I'm assuming that's where it derived from. But when I'm talking about layers, that's what I mean. So that was just one layer of the story of eating cabbage. Today, right, there's a whole new layer, right? You can eat cabbage after 10 o'clock if you want to, or the next day. Why? Because we have sophisticated refrigeration. So anyway, it was this interaction, just reading this lady's email, that kind of sparked that thought in my mind. And I thought, that's probably how a lot of things that we go through come about, right? We're told something from our parents based on what they've gone through, what they've gone through. Now, I know you're asking, okay, well, what does that have to do with separation? Okay, we're getting there. So, just keep that in mind, the layers, right? So, I use a number of sources to come up with the topic, not just my day-to-day experiences, but also, I do kind of research and, it comes up. So, anyway, I have a process. So, in my process, while I was going through my process, the story, I almost don't even know where to start. I know I'm bouncing around. Let me start with this story. Let me start with my experience on the way here. Okay. So I was on the way here, and I was listening to, my little iPod thing that I've had for 1,000 years. And something just told me to pop it in, so I connected it, and, I'm playing through the songs. And Jamie Foxx comes on. So you guys remember when Jamie Foxx first came out, right? He was a comedian, right? And that's all he did, but thought he was hilarious. Well, on this track, he's singing. And he was at a concert in San Diego, and in the middle of his comedy act, he started playing and doing all the nursery rhymes, and we really got to see the extent of his singing talent there. And I thought, how crazy is that? Because now, we know that Jamie Foxx is multi-talented, right? But it was like his comedy was the platform to get him through. It was all a process. But he broke into the business with his comedy and television. And that created a platform for his singing, for him to come out with his singing voice, which created another platform, right, for him to come out and do these shows and speak from his heart and give his wisdom, which he does. He's a wise guy. He has a lot of good things to say. I've heard him. I mean, he's a comedian, but he has good things to say. I always enjoy listening to his interviews. So anyway, the point is, it was a layered approach to where he needed to go, right? We sometimes think, no, I want to be there. But again, just reviewing from last week, it is a process. Okay. So, today's topic, right, it has to do with a kind of separation. Why? Because there's all kinds. With Jamie Foxx, his talents were separated to get him to the ultimate place he needed to be. But there are separations, there are types of separations that are not good, the ones that make us feel isolated and the ones that make us feel alone and broken. And a lot of times when we feel this separation, or separation from God and a separation from ourselves, when we feel it, we don't always address it. So whatever perceptions grow around that separation that cause that fragmentation, that's the thing that causes us our issues and the things that happen into our world. So this morning, the question to be asked is, where are you fragmented? That's the question. So I want to kind of delve into that. I know it kind of took me a minute to kind of get around to it, but sometimes, you guys, the things that I hear so much stuff like in my thoughts, there's so many things coming in. It's like, okay, wait a minute, I gotta pick this, and wait a minute, I gotta pull this together. So but that's my process. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, where are you fragmented? Where are you fragmented? What is in separation that has caused this void, this fragmentation, or breaking apart? What didn't connect that caused this within you? Maybe you don't have any fragmentation. Maybe you completely whole, you're good, and everything is good, and that's amazing. But it's still important to understand fragmentation and how it comes about. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. We are all a part of the universe, and the universe is a part of us. And, everything in our external world is a reflection of us, of who we are. We don't always think that, right? Because we're like, my external world is in chaos. Yeah, that's probably because somewhere you're in chaos. Whether it's mental, wherever it is, there's chaos within you, because, you know, in accordance with the laws of the universe, vibration matches vibration, energy matches energy. I know a lot of you have heard, you know, like when we would be dating and stuff back in the day, and we always were attracting the same people. Be like, well, I'm always getting the same Joe. You got a different name, same guy, same MO. What's that about? And then your girlfriend would look at you and be like, well, you know, if you keep on getting the same thing, the common denominator is usually you. So it's the same thing, right? That way of thinking, that theory is correct. We attract things to our vibration that match our vibration. If we want something different, we have to change our vibration. You change your vibration by shifting your beliefs, your thoughts, doing things differently. That's how we do it, right? Okay. So, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and run the commercial. But first, let me say, the important thing in this commercial to me is about honoring your individuality, who you are. You know, we say that almost every show, right? I say that almost every show. But it is so, so, so important to honor it. There are a lot of people who would love to pull you into the status quo, who would love to make you mimic what they do, right? They're like, nuh-uh, this is the way I do this, and that's the way you should do it. No, boo. That's the way you should do it. I should do it the way I want to do it. You know what I mean? But there's so many people that do that, and if you're not aware, and if you're not in the right space, you know, it's not even about being smart. It's about being in the right space. You can fall into that without even knowing it, because most people are not as overt as to say, well, I want you to do what I do. They're not that honest. They're going to con and coax and do all these different things until you're doing what they want you to do. So it's just, you know, you have to be mindful. So anyway, the commercial I'm going to run is about being and embracing uniqueness. So we're going to run that, and when we'll come back, we'll dive off into the rest of the topic, okay? All right, see you soon.
With the rise of the internet and social media, it seems like the world is getting smaller every day. There are so many trends and ways of life that you find yourself not quite fitting in. If you're new to the channel, click the red subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up. Today, we are letting you know that it's okay if you don't fit in, because these are 10 reasons why being different is good. You stand out. In a world of yellow Legos, you are a blue Lego. That means you stand out in a crowd. There is nothing wrong with standing out and being different. By doing so, you are making sure that you are getting noticed, because let's face it, who wants to be like everyone else? Whether it's a crazy hairstyle or an amazing fashion sense that may not be trendy, thinking outside the box is sure to make you stand out. Life is more interesting. When you lead a life that isn't like the rest of the world, you are sure to have a more interesting experience. Not only will you inspire and bring joy to the people around you, but you will also find yourself in unique situations. Since you already have the self-esteem to be confident with yourself, you are able to see the beauty in others and the world around you. And when you see the beauty in the world, you may be able to see the things that the rest of the world misses. Wouldn't the world be so much more boring if we were all the same? You show courage. It's hard to go against what society calls the norm. So by being different, you are showing a lot of courage. Whether you are different because of your sexual orientation, religion, or way of life, you are showing the world that you are proud of who you are. Just being able to accept that you are different is an achievement by itself. You stand up for what you believe in and aren't afraid of whom you are, and that is awesome. Life is less stressful. If you have ever been someone who tries to be something you aren't, then you probably know how hard it is to deal with. You are constantly stressed out because you don't want to be exposed for whom you really are. When you come to terms with accepting yourself for being different, life becomes a lot less stressful. You no longer have to lie, pretend, and fake your way through every day. Do yourself a favor and take a break from being what you think everyone else wants you to be. Because at the end of the day, you only have one life, so why not spend it being your complete, true, and different self? You're more likely to be successful. Having the ability to think and live outside the box means that you are more likely to be successful. Look at some of the world's most successful people. There were times they were considered weird, crazy, or even different, but they didn't let other people's opinions of them keep them down. Some of the most innovative people in the world became so successful because they were able to not conform to society. Progress and innovation can't be made if you are just like everyone else. You can't be labeled. In a world that loves to put people in boxes and label them, you are someone who can't and won't be labeled. It's okay to not know what your style is or conform to what is trendy. There is no reason you should worry about being labeled because in the end, no one will be able to do it anyway. You are someone that understands that labels are for things you want to keep in order, not for people, and certainly not for you. It makes you attractive. Being different can be a great conversation starter. Humans are naturally curious about things they don't understand, and most of the time, they want to learn. When you strike up a conversation or teach someone something new, they have a tendency to gravitate toward you. People who are different have the natural ability to be comfortable in their skin and teach others how to do so themselves at the same time. Being different absolutely makes you attractive because it means you are truly one of a kind. You're free to be yourself. You will never fully develop as an individual if you are always worried about fitting in. This means you are always trying to please others and do what you think you're supposed to do. When you are different, you finally have the freedom to be who you were always meant to be. Your friends accept you for who you are, and you don't have to put on a mask when you're with them. Being able to live free and happy with who you are is the best gift you can give to yourself. You have better relationships. When you are different, you tend to attract people who are also special and unique. They are also the people that understand and love you for who you are. Because you can be yourself around them, you have a healthier and stronger relationship. You are also more likely to have a better love life. People who are different and accept that they are different are shown to have more self-esteem, which means you know exactly what you want from a partner, and you aren't willing to settle for anything less than what you desire. Your creative potential thrives. If you ever want to be creative, then it's good when you can see the world differently. You will be able to explore the way things like art and music make you feel, then try to invoke the same feeling in others through your own creativity. Being different is a great tool to help the world to also see things from another perspective. Ask any creator, and they will tell you that the first step to being creative is figuring out what you like. And if what you like is less mainstream, then no worries. It's just your turn to let the world know that just because something is different doesn't mean it's bad.
Hey, welcome back. So let's see. We were talking about separation and fragmentation. So separation. So the video kind of demonstrates like how we're separated from people. It's all different kinds of ways and based on all different kinds of criteria. But it talks about how a person can be singled out or separated from the group, right? And it's this separation that leads to fragmentation within a person. So that's how they connect. Okay, so we learned that there are certain things about ourselves that are acceptable to others and not. That's what separation teaches us, right? That's what it teaches us. And that's what initiates the process of fragmentation. What is or is not acceptable is dependent upon the perspective of the environment of upbringing. So what that basically means is, if in my house, like if I grew up in a house where, I don't know, using a washcloth to wash the dishes was absolutely unacceptable, if that is how I was raised and everything in my environment supported that, right, I would not use a washcloth. And when I saw someone using a washcloth, I would respond a certain way to it, right? Depending on whatever I'm trying to think of the psychological terms and they're evading me. The reinforcers were. How was it reinforced? Did I get a whooping, or did I not eat dinner, or whatever it was for, it's different for everybody. But if that was the thing, then I grow up thinking that that's the thing. Oh my God, you cannot use washcloths to wash dishes. But if I grew up in a home where it's like, listen, if a washcloth is all we got, wash the dishes with the washcloth, because those dishes will be washed. So maybe in this house, the most important thing was getting the dishes washed. They didn't care how you did it. If you had to use your t-shirt, just kidding. But I'm just saying, if if they didn't care, the most important thing was getting the dishes washed, then that's the thing that you use. So that's the thing that programs you, right? So if you go somewhere and you do things a particular way and it's not in line with the way that a person or a community was taught things should be, it makes you separate. And most times people are ostracized because of that, not embraced because of the difference. And so that's what we're talking about here today. What that ostracization, is that a word? I think I just made that up. But what separating that person for being different does to them, it causes a fragmentation within them. Now, some fragmentations are big, they have big effects, and some of them aren't really big, depending on the trauma that it causes, right? The trauma connected to it. So when I was writing this out, right, when I was going through this, a story came to mind. A good friend of mine, he was telling me a story about when he was young, right? He's a little bit older, but not much. But he was telling me a story about when he was young and he was in school. And he used to always get in trouble and stuff. And he said one day his mom sent him to school and said, listen, please, can you just not get in trouble today? He's like, yes, mommy, I'm going to go to school and be good. I'm not going to get in any trouble. So he goes to school, and he loved music, loved music. So he always carried this little radio with him. He loved this music, loved it. So he was sitting in class. The day was going well. He wasn't in any trouble. And the teacher says, okay, I think over the intercom they called the teacher or something. So she had to leave the classroom. She told all the students, okay, everybody stay seated. I will be back in a few minutes. And they were like, okay. She closes the door. Of course, he's sitting there. He's bored. So what does he do? He turns his radio on. Turns the radio on. And I think he said Marvin Gaye came over the radio. And he said the spirit of the music just got a hold of him. So he said he started dancing around in his chair, and it was good. Everything was going good. He said then all of a sudden, before he knew it, he was on top of his desk. It got so good to him, he didn't got on top of the desk, start dancing. The whole class is dancing and having a good time, and the teacher walks in. Hence, he goes home with a note on his shirt saying he acted up. His mother was appalled. Oh my God, I don't know what's wrong with this kid. He's out of control. We can't, what's going on with him? And so that created, a kind of fragmentation, we could say that. That he was defiant and out of control. It created a stigma that he was a defiant and out of control child. But really he wasn't, right? He just was a spirited child who just really loved and enjoyed embracing life. But when you grow up, right, probably like his parents, where you're supposed to conform and things have to be a particular way, that's not so much appreciated or embraced. So for them, that made him an outcast, not a pioneer to another way of being. So this is what we're talking about. And it's important for you guys to understand how these things, the process of how these things kind of evolve one thing into the other, because when you start backtracking for yourself, you'll be able to identify where that shift was and how things could have gotten out of alignment or out of balance for you, right? Not really knowing, because back in the day, they ain't really do no whole bunch of talking. They wasn't sitting around like we sitting around saying, girl, whatever. They're not doing that. So it's today, it's what we're doing today to help us move to the next level in our emotional evolution, to get out of the chaos into a more order for us, and understand who we are and embracing who we are. So because there's not a lot of that going on. I mean, if you look at the world, it's getting better, but baby, there are some deep wounds, and that is what we're trying to attack. So that's why it's important. Okay, so that moves to my next point, which is, where are we fragmented? And what does that look like for us? That's why that's important. And these things kind of help us understand that, right? And I talked about this, the degree of trauma experienced by a personality, meaning a person, who you are, right, determines how severe that fragmentation from whatever experience will be for you. There's just all kinds, there's a myriad of topics that can cause that. And I do have an example. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. I just want to make sure I cover all these points. I wanted to also touch on the fragmentation. It can also be found in the story that we consistently tell ourselves and other people about who we are. So that's very important. Most people have a certain story and they tell it over and over and over. You'll see it. There's a consistent theme. Certain things may change, but there's a consistent theme of what they're saying or what you're saying about yourself and who you are. And it's layered by all these little colorful stories of things that people have told you over years or have expected, but all of these things have shaped what you think about yourself. And if you look at the story closely, you can see it in every story you tell. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, we want to make sure that we look at our story, and that's kind of where we start to figure out where our fragmentation is, if we have it. Now, there are some people running around out there that are like, listen, I'm good, I'm fine, I don't feel no kind of way. Okay, that's great. Then this topic maybe isn't for you. Maybe it's for, somebody you know. But this is about people who are trying to get to the next level in their own personal, emotional, psychological evolution, spiritual evolution. They're trying to become better people. They're tired of doing what they've been doing. I've been doing this forever, and it has not yielded any of the things that I want, none of the rewards that I want it to yield. So I need to do something different, but I don't know where to start. This is who that is for. That's for those people who are saying, no, I'm ready, because I can't continue to keep doing this. I can't keep hiding behind my insecurities connected to this fragmentation, right? Drinking it down, eating it down, sleeping it down, working it down. It's time to just face this thing, take the bull by the horns, and ride that joker, and just, understand what it is till I can tame it and get to a new place. And that's what this is about, right? And people handle their issues differently. Some people, and I think we touched on this a little bit last week, some people do the exact opposite, right? So where you might have somebody who is like, I don't know, somebody eats green beans, and they made them eat them, and they, even when they didn't want them, and it made them sick, and they would, and that's just a crazy example. But when they grow up, they don't even buy green beans, right? Green beans don't even exist in a household. So think about the impact of that, okay? So a kid is forced to eat green beans. It creates some kind of psychological event or fragmentation within them about green beans, right? There's a few things that could happen. One, they could, like I said, not buy green beans. Their kids don't even know green beans exist until they go to someone else's house. And they're like, what is that? And their parents are looking like, what is that? Those are green beans. You never had green beans? And they're like, no. They've never had green beans. They've never been introduced to green beans because of the trauma their parents had with green beans, right? And their parents didn't tell them that. That's how things that's just it's a simple example of how things can unfold, right? With bigger issues. Or, they may swear off all vegetables. I mean, that could happen. So the extremes are there. It could be a small extreme or it could be a big extreme. But, it's like they do the opposite thing. And that's another way of hiding or, dealing. It's kind of dealing with the fragment, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense, guys. Okay, so a good example that I could give is a story about a young man. He gave me a story about when he was young, right? When he was young, he had a big family, a lot of brothers and sisters, lots of brothers and sisters. And, when he was young, he always felt like, his mother just did not give him attention. Like he didn't feel like he could get enough attention. Like every time he was like, whatever, it was like, no, go, okay, here's your stuff, go over there. And, so he just felt like he didn't get enough. All right, let's just say that. So as he got older, right, he wasn't getting the attention that he once got when he was a baby or, an infant. He started acting out, which some people do, right? When they're not getting what they want and they don't know how to get it, sometimes children and adults will just act out. So he started acting out. He started like leaving the house and staying out. Some days he would come home, some days he wouldn't. No one said a thing. He would come home, they would act like ain't nothing happened. And that was perplexing for him. That's where his first crack happened, right? He's like, I'm disconnected from these people. I stayed out in the streets all day and nothing happened. I stayed out for days, nothing happened. They act like there was no big deal. I must not be important. They must not love me. They must not care about me. What did I do to get to this point? They used to love me, They used to care about me, and now they don't. I don't know. I can't fix it. Everything I do, nothing works. All right, well, forget it. I'm going to go out here and find somebody who does love me, who does care about me. So what did that lead to? Lots of women, lots of children. But in the process of that, what ended up happening is it still didn't fill that void. You know what I mean? That void that he felt, it didn't fill it. So then it led him to other things. He started doing some, recreational drugs. Nothing heavy, just, a little something here, a little something there. That's what he did. And it still didn't lead to it. All the while he's searching for this thing, right? And we're going to get to that, what the thing is. As he's searching for this connection, he's trying to figure out what this void is that makes him feel this way and seek all these different avenues for finding this connection he's looking for. The fragments, the roots of the fragments are growing deeper and deeper. They're becoming more deeply embedded within him, within his field, within his psyche, within his everything. Okay, so it never gets addressed. It never gets addressed. And really, what he was looking for, what he really needed to connect to was himself. He needed to learn to love himself. But he didn't have anyone to tell him, listen, man, it's not about everybody else. It's about you loving you and knowing that you're always connected. There is a whole spiritual world out there, and they are supporting you, and they love you. God loves you. Your angels, your guides, they love you. No one was talking to him like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I know at least most black people grew up with some semblance of, at least back then, right, of God and going to church, and that was just, it was a thing, because our faith has always been very strong. And he was disconnected from his faith. And no one's, I don't know why, I didn't get into all of those details, but I'm assuming for whatever reason, he was disconnected from his faith, and it probably had to do with the fragmentation, right? But the point of the story I'm trying to make is, over the years, he kept doing this until the roots of the fragmentation became so deep, it started to be perceptible in his everyday life. So it caused him to be irrational, have irrational fears. It caused him to, think people were looking, paranoia and all this. So it led to a kind of mild mental situation, right? And delusional thinking is the way I wrote it. Let me just read my notes. These roots grew so deeply that eventually they surfaced in his perceptive world as irrational fear, delusional thinking, and threat of harm to self, because he didn't understand how he got there or what to do. He still was operating in the same energy of what is going on. It was like being twisted around continuously and never being able to get stable to figure some things out. So anyway, that's just one example of how that kind of works. But the real point of the story is you don't want to allow your fragmentation to go so long that the roots grow so deep that it's nothing is impossible, but it's damn near impossible. It will feel like that to dig them up. It takes a lot of work to dig them up because they're so deep, but it can be done. Let's not be mistaken. It can be done. You know, a lot of times what happens is we think that we're okay and we operate like in a certain zone, and everybody in the world thinks we're okay. Our world always kind of tells us, it reflects back to us, you know, if there's something kind of out of place, right? We'll get it in our environment some way. But whether it's through a person, you're looking at a person, you're like, why does he act like that? Sometimes that's a reflection back to you, the thing that you're not looking at. Because sometimes we think things behind our thoughts. So I learned about that using my pendulum, right? I have a pendulum that I use when I'm reading, and that is my way of connecting with spirit. That's how I do it. If I can't hear, and we all have the ability to hear. It comes, like I said before, it comes to different people in different ways. But if I can't hear, if I'm like, I can't hear my connections, I can't hear what I'm supposed to be doing, I'll pull my pendulum out. And what I learned from using my pendulum is sometimes I would ask the pendulum a question, it would swing a certain way, and I'd be like, what is happening? You know, what is going on with this? I would be upset. But then I started realizing is that spirit is speaking to the question behind the question. I didn't even know I was doing it until I used the pendulum. Now let me pause for a moment to say something about the pendulum. There are probably people who will see this show and are maybe seeing the show right now who will be like, oh, a pendulum, oh my God. It is a tool. It is a tool that has helped me to develop and understand who I am and what my patterns are. So for me, again, I always tell you guys, a thing in and of itself is not good or bad. It's just a thing. It's how you use it. So I did bring my pendulum. I did. This is my pendulum. You know, I tell you guys, I always talk with my spirit team. I connect with God and I say, hey, is it cool? I've asked, could I use this before? And they were like, no. But this time today, they said I could. So this is my pendulum. I used to call my pendulum baby. Yeah, I call my pendulum baby. They like that. So anyway, this is what I use. I know it seems strange. It seems out there. It seems wild. It's just because it's not something that you're used to seeing. You're not used to seeing things respond when there's nobody pushing it or touching it, right? I get it. It's like a cooperative exchange between energy. Now, we've talked about energy before, right? And the thing we talked about was it's the space in between things that carries a vibration, right? So I'm here and maybe, you know, someone else is sitting here, right? The space between us is what carries the vibration. You know how you can walk into a room and no one has to say a word, but you automatically say to yourself, something's not right in here. Something's not right and something don't feel right. This is kind of the same way. This is how it moves. Okay, so anyway, now it's swinging, which you can clearly see I'm not moving, but it's responding to what I'm saying. When it swings this way, it's confirming. Now, if I say, you know, spirit is not in the room, you know, they're never going to show up. They're not around us. They're swinging the other way. Why? Because that's false. Spirit is in the room. Spirit is all around us. You cannot, ooh, my hand, look at it's shaking. It's a lot of energy coming through. You cannot disconnect from spirit. You can't. We're all one. We're integral. I can't say the word, but you know what I'm talking about. We are very connected. It runs through us, around us. This is the reason why I always say, stop saying stuff like, ooh, don't curse on Sunday. Or, you do stuff behind closed doors and you think, you good, and then you go out in public and you show a different face and you think it's all good and nobody knows. Well, somebody knows. Spirit knows. They see. There's no hiding. So anyway, that's a topic for another day. But anyway, you can see that it's responding as I'm having the conversation with you. I'm not entirely sure why today was okay and other days were not, but I'm sure that will come clear for me later. And you probably will see me using this more often. I think a lot of times it's about wrapping your mind around something different, to ease you into something different, for you to understand uniqueness, just like what we've been talking about all day, right? Being unique and not allowing, identifying with your uniqueness and knowing what it feels like to be banished or separated from a group as a result of your uniqueness, right? And then what happens to a person when they are banished because of their uniqueness. Some people embrace it to keep it moving and like, I'm good. But other people become fragmented. And that's the point. Okay? All right. So, what is our story? So what is the point of the show? What is our story? What is your story? Figure out what your story is. Look at your story and find out, what are you telling yourself? What do you tell other people? What do you believe about yourself? And if there's something in there that does not really serve you, right? It doesn't get you to where you want to be, right? Then figure out where it came from. Dig deeper. Figure out, how did I come to these conclusions? I remember when I was young, right? My mother, I remember when I was young, my mother used to, she used to always say, oh, you lying. And that shit used to bother the hell out of me, because I'm like, I'm not lying, I'm telling you the truth. And so growing up, right, that caused me fragments in me, which is the reason why I'm so honest, almost for some people too honest. But it was because I did not align with what she was trying to tell me I was. I'm like, that is not who I am. And I made it a point to make sure that I align. Because, it was one thing for my mom to say, oh, you're lying. My parents do that. They say that to their children. And then my father saying, I can't stand a liar. I hate a liar. That's like a thief. He's worse than a thief. You know what I mean? At least you know what a thief does. So you got these two dynamics playing, and it caused me to feel some kind of way. And because of that, I responded a certain way. And that, but and I say that it still caused a kind of fragmentation, but I used it to my benefit by staying in the truth of the light. And I understand that sometimes it's acceptable and sometimes it's not acceptable. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with what telling the truth brings. What showing the truth brings. I'm okay with it. I understand, but I also know that I am protected. And I also know that I am loved. And I also know that I am embraced. Not always by my human counterparts, but always and forever by my spiritual world and my God and my spiritual counterparts, my angels and my guides. So that's just an important thing I just put out there. But that's where you have to get to. You have to get to the place where whoever you are, you embrace that, and even if no one else in your environment loves you, you are loved. You just need to find your connection. Okay, so step out. So the challenge is to step out of the shadow of your past, right? And to choose to be at peace and in the flow of love, no matter what's going on around you. Do not resist who you are. Be who you are. Let go of resistance so that you can see from a higher perspective. So that's kind of the whole point of the show. And I hope that I articulated this well. I tried to give you as many examples as I could to kind of give you a broad idea of like kind of how it works. But that's the thing that Spirit's had on my mind, and this is what I've been talking about, been thinking about all week. listen to your inner self. Listen to your inner senses. The handwriting is on the wall, so look around you and see what it's saying. Only you know what the handwriting on your wall means. Someone else can't come in and say blah, 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 blah. I mean, they can give you hints or whatever, but you have an internal knowing system, and it works if you trust it. So if you trust it and you start asking yourself, okay, listen, self, spirit, God, angels, guides, whatever, whatever your flavor is, tell me what's happening. They'll respond. They will respond as sure as my pendulum was swinging every time I said something that was true. They will respond. They will respond. So you just have to listen and align with yourself, in your higher self, and God, and it will come together, I promise you. You're never alone. And that voice that always comes in and says, this is stupid, she's crazy, I don't know, I ain't touching that, and all that. You can adhere to it, but you're going to miss out on a golden opportunity to take yourself to the next level. And that's what it's all about. We are not meant to stay in the same place. We are meant to evolve. And this is your opportunity to do it. So do it. I mean, you don't have to hold a pendulum. You don't have to do what I do. I'm not promoting that you go out and try to be Denise, or you try to be Charlotte Black, or you try to be Carrie, or you try to be Sean, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you go out and be whoever you are through whatever methods you feel comfortable using to connect. But don't allow people to separate you to an extent that it causes you to be fragmented, because you are valuable, and what you bring to the table, what you bring to this humanity, what you bring to this now is important. It's important. And it's important that it's brought your way and not just a mimicking of someone else. We already got that. We want something new. Let's bring something new. So that's what, that's what it's all about. So let's take an active position to figure out where the fragmentation is. That's all I have for the show today. I want to talk about the mindfulness moment for just a second, and what we're going to do this week is to do something fun. We're always like meditating, which meditating is good, or, we got to unmask something and, figuring out the fragmentation. That's all heavy. So do something you haven't done in a long time that you absolutely love, like coloring. I love to color. Remember we were kids and we'd be in school and the teacher would be like, okay, you got to color, make sure you stay in them lines. And we like, all right. And it was a big deal, right? We were like, okay, girl, I'm in my line. You in your line. Ooh, you went out. That kind of thing. But it was fun. It was light. Pick up a coloring book. If you used to read comics, read a comic book. If you used to draw something. Do something fun this week that really lifts your spirit, that really connects you to your uniqueness. And embrace that thing. And a little by little, you'll be able to see that will also aid in helping you, relax and be able to embrace where you are and where you've been, and possibly where the disconnect happened and where the fragmentation was caused. And most of the time, it's really just because of a misunderstanding or our perspective as a child looking at an adult situation, but not understanding why the adult is doing what they're doing. Not because we weren't loved or we weren't cared for. So anyway, I give you that. That's all I got this morning. I hope that it was beneficial. I hope it didn't sound like I'm sitting here going, dang, I almost sound like I delivered a sermon. But with a different approach, a different feel. But it is what it is. I bring forth whatever topic, I'm directed or guided to bring forth. So that's what it is today. Listen, I look forward to next week. Have a little special treat. I will be recording live from not in the studio next week. We'll be on location in Atlanta next week. So come on board. I'm trying to connect with my good friend Lyle Moore of Makeup and More, and if we can get with him and get him on the scene, that'll be an amazing thing. So listen, have an amazing week. You are amazing people. You are loved. You are cherished. God bless you. Love and light, miracles and blessings. We'll talk to you soon.